welcome back to another very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my monolithic but not quite as mysterious friend and co-host,
Alex Dandino.
That's right, we're back to stuffing stockings. I guess this is the first stocking we
already gave our own stocking stuffers.
That's right, but before that, a little business. Guys, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Guys, it's the best way to help the show. It's the absolute best way to make this show exactly what you want and deserve for as little as $1 a month. And I assure you, every single dollar is greatly appreciated.
It's true.
All the support we can get is greatly appreciated. So you can go over there, meet our community, see what we're growing over there, meet the awesome patrons we already have. And if you climb the official Highlander tier ranking systems, you get to specifically select the movies that you would like us to discuss in a Patreon exclusive library. We've had so many awesome picks over there. So guys, again, that's patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Again, as little as $1 a month. Every dollar helps. We appreciate so much those of you who help us, and we appreciate a ton those of you who are about to as well. Make sure you go to YouTube. Check out our just perfectly smooth, geometrically fine, unblemished, untouched, life-inspiring faces.
Shockingly false. Shockingly false advertising on this show.
Agree to disagree. Like all great mysteries of the universe, we'll never know. It's up to you. So, guys, that's Film Alchemist on YouTube. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the other social media, just like you and the fellow youngsters. Hit us up. We love to hear from you guys. We're shockingly easy to get a hold of, so reach out. Reach out and touch our smooth, onyx, non-reflective surface. All right. Before I keep making these just weird analogies that you won't understand. Guys, we're here today to stuff some goddamn stockings. That's what we do here. Every December, we stuff stockings. So we had 4 patrons get their movie selected because one of them was a Christmas movie. So we bowed before the patrons. So
true.
Again, guys, that's patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. You know who our God is, the dollar, the almighty dollar. So, guys, we're here to stuff stockings. Up first, friend Howard, who won last year, who won again this year and brought a banger this year. 2010, so this is the sequel to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. I have to say, in the great pantheon of sequels, this might be about as fascinating a sequel as you could have come up with, right? 2001 A Space Odyssey is a somewhat singular and, I mean, for me personally, a very profound kind of cinematic experience, right?
No. For everyone.
Well, I know there are always people, that movie fucking sucks, blah, blah, blah. You know, those people, right?
Yeah.
But I think
who
most
do that
people
are full of shit.
I agree. I think 2001 is one of the very few movies I've ever seen, right? You don't watch 2001, you kind of experience it, right?
Yes.
The first time I saw it, it was one of those like, oh my God, that's what a movie can be. Like it melted my brain. I was young. I was college age. I was impressionable. But yeah, it was just profound, esoteric, just primordial ooze of questions and big thoughts and ideas and images.
Right.
And to be tasked with the making a sequel to that, which there were novels, right? Arthur C. Clarke kept writing them, fine. To be the person who had to come up and be like, I will do the number 2 movie in the 2001 lineage, took a lot of guts. And I have to say, the decision made was, if 2001 is all very heady and Star Baby and feeling, this is an absolute hard hat and lunchbox sequel, right? This is the working man's science fiction all movie. Yeah, go ahead. First thoughts.
I think I would describe 2010 as like, for those because I don't know about in quick aside, and when I started school at San Diego State, I was missing science credit, and one of the things you could take, one of the classes was the science of science fiction. So we were taught by one of the members of the physics department who like just read science fiction. I'm pretty sure he just liked a lot of science fiction novels. So we read a lot of really good science fiction. Before I took the class, I did not know the difference. I did not know there was a difference between like hard sci-fi, general sci-fi. There was fantasy sci-fi. I didn't know there was the subgenres of science fiction. This to me is a movie that speaks almost entirely to the hard sci-fi set. There is a lot of very specific technological things in this movie. There's a lot of very I was telling you before the pod, there's a lot of very unnecessary moments in this movie where they're describing technological things, and I'm like, I don't need to know any of that to continue the film as is. But I think that actually, I think 2010's a really. I've only seen 2010 once, and it was by accident because I thought it said 2001, like when it was on TV. I was like, oh, cool, yeah, whatever. And then it started, and I'm like, 2010? I don't think this is the same movie. I watched it, thought it was fine. Watching it this time with a more critical eye, I really do think this movie actually does a very good job of not doing Stanley Kubrick's 2001. I am going to say, like, there are a few movies in this world that are watershed moments in filmmaking. Like, sometimes there's just movies that have set a benchmark beyond benchmark. It's not even a benchmark. It's just that is the thing you aspire to for the rest of your career. 2001 is always that. There's no way it can't be. It is in the pantheon of great science fiction films simply because it is so esoteric and so out there and bizarre. It hits all these crazy notes.
Well, here's a fascinating nugget on that movie, right? I don't know if you knew this. That movie was made before we had seen Earth from Space.
Yes, exactly. That's like, another thing.
Dude, that movie, someday we'll get to talk about that movie.
That's the mind-blowing thing about 2001.
Exactly. Someday when we feel like wildly up to it,
but
we'll get there. But this is the thing, right? So this is the difference, right? The way I would describe these two films, right? Because 2001 starts with this kind of a short film, right? Monolith, these primitive ape creatures finding
2001 is basically 3 sections of a movie. Three movies.
So it starts with this very kind of like long silent film about the origin of life and where we can whatever.
Right.
This movie just starts boom, 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 satellite array, like dishes. And this movie's telling us in the very first shot, we aren't here for your fucking goddamn poetry. We're here to gather facts. We're here to gather hard data.
We're not here for your Beyond Starscape, Star Child bullshit. We're here to gather the facts.
Put the reefer down, boy. We got a 9 to 5, right? That's what this movie's telling you. And I gotta say, I think it's brilliant. I think if you tried to fucking match Swords with 2001 and 2001's Arena, I don't think you possibly could have done justice. And what this movie did is said, what if we took the same thing? So what it is, it's the exact, a lot of movies deal with this, right? Prometheus did, a lot of these. Why are we here? What is the point of all this, right?
Right.
And 2001, in its very own strange way, kind of examines that, right? Through Hal and the Monolith and all these things, right? Religion and technology, whatever.
Right.
This movie is that exact same thing, right? This is the exact same kind of question and thought process that we went through in 2001. The difference is that this movie saying, instead of seeing the monolith and being in so much awe, right? Don't look at it as this piece of art. Don't look at it as something we can only describe with, art and religion and things beyond our control. This movie says we have the exact same amount of awe, but it's because it's something we can quantify and touch, and we'll do the work. And like you said, a lot of times in this movie, you feel like you got hired by a temp agency to like work on a spaceship. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, why are you describing space shit to me? I don't need to know that. Just fucking, if you tell me like, oh, we're flying the ship to this planet, I don't go, I wonder what kind of propulsion we're using. Like, just fucking fly the shit.
I mean, it's interesting because I watched 2010, and watching 2010, I got hardcore Sunshine vibes. Like, it reminded me a lot of the way Sunshine is structured, actually.
Interesting.
Not just from from set design down to Sunshine does the same thing. I mean, obviously is a little more telling and a little more, Sunshine uses a lot more of the science to basically explain why things happen. This one is literally like, hey, we're gonna do this thing. Like when they describe arrow breaking, I was just like, I don't care at all. Like you could literally just say, we're gonna throw on the space brakes, and I'd be like, cool, that makes sense to me. I'm dumb, so it's like,
we're gonna do a space loop-de-loop, and I'm like, holy shit, these guys are smart. These guys are fucking smart.
They literally could have said, we're going to do the quantum breaking of the, I'm like, sure, that makes sense to me.
Well, once the guy's like, yeah, I just have dolphins in my breakfast nook, you're like, yeah, I'll accept anything you're doing in this film.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing I've seen in either 2001 movie.
The dolphins already had dinner. Come eat your spaghetti. I'm like, the world has changed. That's absolutely fine.
You're like, this monolith is shaking things up for sure. But that's what, I mean, even that house, right? That house is weird in its own way. And it's the difference though, right? Whereas Kubrick's is this kind of beautiful art piece and it looks like paintings often, right? It's just wonderfully,
right.
I think of it as the difference between like Apple and like the guy who builds his own high-tech gaming computer. It's like, it's ugly. I put like the weird like red light in it so it looks technology-wise, but it's more functional. Right. Whereas, an Apple's like built for like sleek design or whatever. This movie spends a lot of time at the start of this movie. We're on Earth, right? We're looking at satellites. We're in these ugly ass conference rooms where everything has that disgusting 70s color palette, right?
Right.
Where we all decided as a world, like, what if our aesthetics were based off pink and mustard? You know what I mean? It's ugly to look at. It's fucking gross.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's rooting us. This movie firmly wants to put our feet on Earth. So that even when we're out in space seeing this monolith, and there is some really cool stuff they get into with the monolith and the kind of, big mysteries of this movie makes sure that we're always firmly rooted as to why that matters, and it's what happens on Earth. Right? Like, there's something they just drop at the start of the film when he's, the Russian, like, sneaks in, and he's like, hey, we got to... So essentially this movie does like a Rocky IV, right? We got to do a Cold War story built in.
Well, that's something that I think factors very heavily into just, like, overall the storytelling in general. Because, again, like, we've watched a lot of horror movies from the 80s, but literally any other movie from the 80s has some sort of Cold War twinge. Every single movie. Like, it was like that was the time. That's what you did.
Yeah, and again, that roots us very much to our world, whereas, the other movie is more about, like, us versus the concept of us. This is a very firm, we're out here we're on a race to get this weapon, information, whatever the fuck it is, right? So these scientists, they're going to go out there together. And they sell it, right? They sell it as, you don't want them to get there first, where? Fine. Then we stop. So I don't know if I love the Cold War stuff, but we'll get to that. What I did like is I like the idea that this one actually took time with the families, right? So we see old Roy, suntanned Roy up there montaging, right? Training and stuff.
Dr. Haywood Jablomi? Yep.
Yeah. Haywood Jablomi. Just so fucking tan, that man. Good Lord. Just tan and crunches for days. But
yeah, that dude.
Yeah, so Roy's over here, but I like the scene when he has to tell his wife, like, hey, this great blunder in my career. He was the one in charge of the Discovery, right, where it all went tits up in 2001. Yeah. And he gets a chance to fix that, right? And he's a fucking bureaucrat, but he decides he has to physically go there this time, right? It's this allure, right? So now we're doing this Explorer's Allure movie, time travel movie almost by function, where it's this guy... We understand why he has to go, but it's telling us something very important about him. That he's willing to just leave his wife and leave his son. I was telling you, my son is 7, right? He'll be 7 in January. My other son just turned 4. What if I just said, peace, I'll see you guys when you're in your mid-20s?
Yeah.
What? Like, are you fucking out of your mind? Like, you're a
Well, it's interesting because they try to frame it as this, like, sort of honorable thing. Like, what, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, dude. Like, no. Just... Anybody else could go.
It seems like the expertise he brought to the ship is bourbon smuggling and looking at graphs and going, unbelievable. Neither here nor there. He was an inspirational coach.
I would say Haywood's contribution is that and like knowing his favorite type of hot dog. Like those are like the big things he knows. That's by the way.
Yeah,
one
but
of my
like
favorite.
that's not a real hot dog. So it's like even like a cynical, like a skinny guy who can do 50 crunches, being like, I also like hot dogs. Like
I
you
also
sack of
love
shit.
I also love Dodger dogs. Shut up.
You sack of shit. You've never
don't
had
know
a hot
anything
dog.
about hot
You're too
dogs.
busy out there getting fucking baked like an old catcher's mitt. You're not eating fucking hot dogs like us real Americans.
Yeah, this human baked potato running down the street, just like absolutely, just like you can just hear his skin crunching.
Gross. Just that baked potato that someone's so healthy they don't even put the butter and bacon bits on it. You're like, you sick fuck. You sick fuck.
And like they scooped out all the potato part because that's the not healthy stuff.
This
like,
is exactly why we're not allowed to see the Monolith, because this is the discussions we have.
If we saw the Monolith, we'd be like,
Roy Scheider is a baked potato analogy. That's the hard-hitting fucking bits we're bringing to humanity. But anywho, I think that is an important distinction of this film, right? And that scene, it is emotionally powerful. I do think it, as a parent, it struck me as like, wow, you're kind of a douche. Like that. Yeah. That's a move I don't accept. But I do think there is something to this. It's the exact same thing we faced in the first movie. And most science fiction is about this, right? Answering some untenable question that will make the future safer and better for all of us, right? And it's a fool's errand, right? As soon as you figure out something else, there's another fucking problem, right? But you understand the allure of it. Mm-hmm. And they do a good job of rooting every character in this movie to some kind of, again, on the earth problem. Or when we get up into space, I love the bits with like John Lithgow's character and Max, right? Russian Max. These great bits of just actual human bonding, right? Like when he's freaking out and he's like, hey man, it's cool. Like, you know, and they're doing like, what's Russian for stupid? You know, easy as cake, right? Like he's doing all the expressions. It's small stuff like that, but it roots these characters together. So like when Max finally gets got, you see John Lithgow erupt in emotion, unlike his own Russian compatriots. Right. That's the extra element this movie has that I thought was a really nice touch. And again, if you're going to make a sequel to that movie, I think so this is a smart take, man. Root us into why this, bring the human back, right? We're not props for this kind of, you know, philosophical debate. We're gross, crunchy things.
I think that is the thing that's most prevalent about 2010 as opposed to like 2001. Yeah, 2001's a masterpiece. There's no doubt about it. I do think, and this is like just my take on a lot of Kubrick movies in general, there is like this weird like void of emotions kind of thing that, like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing in a lot of cases, but like for instance, I actually care about these characters a lot. Like, right. I really do. Like, I don't give a shit about Dave Bowman. Like, literally anything could happen to that guy in 2001 and be like, great, whatever, it's fine.
Before I watched this today, I never would have remembered that character's name for a million years.
He is a vessel for us to put ourselves in and be that character in the movie. That's what he's there for. Like, this is the thing that Kubrick did in 2001 that you don't need to do again. And that's what I think Peter Hyams, who's the guy who directed it, did such a great job with, is realizing that, like, we don't need to do this again. Like, we don't need to be put in the driver's seat the way we were in 2001, especially at the end of 2001, which is, like, so abstract and weird and, like, out there. And you're just like, I mean, you know, you in the movie and you're like, wow, that's the look on our face. Like, wow, what an experience. Oh, my God. This one is about the storytelling itself rather than the experience of, like, this philosophical urge to question our being in the universe. This one is about, we're supposed to be in the universe, but let's still figure out why, you know? Like, there's a lot of this. Right. It's sort of like, it reminds me a lot of Contact. Contact has this same sort of thing, and, you know, Contact's a very different movie, but at the same time, it's in a lot of ways not. Like, there's a lot of this exploration of why we're here, but from a very specific point of view, and not this, like, wide open philosophical chasm that we all just like deep dive into in 2001. This is about why are we all here, but more importantly, why are we out here?
Well, here's the question too, right? That a lot of science fiction movies kind of eschew that I think is pretty important is, all right, they're out there, so fucking what? I still got to pay my bills next week.
Why do I give a shit about these people? I still have to pay my credit card.
Roy Scheider, is that how you say it? Roy Scheider?
Scheider, yeah.
Yeah. So in Roy Scheider, I think he's wonderful, like brilliant casting. Because again, he's that police chief Brody, right? He is the fucking ultimate
Well, that
man.
opener is like perfect. That opener is perfect. Is pitch perfect to tell you what kind of movie this is going to be.
He is the ultimate like everyman, right? Like better than any man you know, but like believe he has that like kind of like working man charm, right? And he's so good. But like this movie's more worried about the scene when he's out jogging, and his kid's like, "Won't you forget me?" That's what this movie's about.
Yeah,
not. What does that thing mean to me? Won't you forget me? The kid says to his dad who's going out there. And the dad might have to be like, well, I'm going to miss a lot.
Yeah. There's still this great artistry, like the choice of just like shooting this long shot of him just running. Like we're
a lot of wide shots on Earth. Like when they're at the White House, that shot is way the fuck back.
Huge. And like these are important. Like these are in conversations like in the hands of a director that the studio would hire to like fix a movie, quote unquote. There'd be a lot of close-ups and a lot of like really different kind of. This is a very specific type of shot, and that to me is the part that I'm like, that's like the Kubrickness coming through. Is like you're picking one thing instead.
It makes us small in our world, and then when we're in the ship, it's tight and like. I mean, I do think there's a lot of craftsmanship in this. I mean, I do think the weird one. This movie is very poorly edited. There's a lot of like really rough, just like abrupt fucking cuts where you're like, I feel like we could have like not air braked on every single fucking transition. But that's neither here nor there.
Aero brake, I believe it's called.
Sorry, I'm the fucking potato analogy guy. I'm not
Dear
a fucking
Griffey,
scientist.
I miss you terribly. We're air braking today.
Dear Dandino, I miss those fucking Final Cut transitions. My God, just a little star wipe like old G. Lucas used to give us. No. But no, I mean, that's what I think. This movie is messier and for the benefit. Like, here's a weird thing. When they're fucking, Aero fucking Tokyo drifting, whatever.
Yeah.
That little Russian lady runs into his room, right? And he just buckles up, and I'm like, oh my God, is he going in for like a last second, like, cheek beating? He's like, I was like, is he going to do what Rocky did to the Cold War, but with his like old, just probably also way too suntan dong?
Yeah.
Like Roy Scheider's dong either looks like that like last corn dog that was like on the edge of the microwave, so it's all like split apart and extra brown, or it's just so white it would be like shocking to see. That's another thing we did not need to discuss here. But I
disagree. This is important stuff.
Is he trying to fucking drop the old fucking like dried out corn dog on this lady?
Yeah.
No, and it was literally just a moment of like they're two scared people kind of going for a hug.
Do you speak English? No English. And his response is swell.
Yeah, the movie never addresses that relationship again because it's not some big planned out movie moment. No. It's this small moment of we're messy, emotional creatures. And I thought the stuff like that was great. I really that stuff, it gives you such a footing, right? It's like you already blew my mind and made me have existential crisis. It's nice to be pulled back down, right? As we get further in our discussion, I think we can debate on if this movie landed properly with this kind of approach, but I think the idea of it was great, right? And I think the weirdest thing about this movie is when it cuts into those things that 2001 did so well, is when it actually starts to kind of fumble, right? Like it just looks jankier when they're spacewalking and when they have like paintings of planets. Like it just doesn't ever look as good. Right?
No,
when they're in space, we don't have like wonderful score that's just letting us sit and take the vastness of space in. We're listening to Dear Child Who I Left Behind on Earth. Right. Here's my thought.
That I think is that's the misstep.
This movie's afraid of the silence in a weird way.
It is. It's interesting you say that because like during that aero braking sequence, there is that one moment that's just like this huge stark wide of like the surface of Jupiter between like Io and Europa, and you see this just like comet of the ship trying to slow itself down, this kind of thing. And that was the part I was like, wow, like they really nailed
with the
this
cloud. Like, that was beautiful. Oh,
it's incredible. Like beautiful, this beautiful vastness. And then it's intercut with like to me it's that kind of shot. Anything that goes close in like that, I was just like, I don't give a shit about this. Like that's the part where you're trying to prove something that I don't think you need to prove in this movie.
Well, because they're like, we've got the fucking 2001 like song. We need to play it so it bonds it. It's like, no one cares about that.
I think that's the thing that's really interesting about this movie is like, they spend so... I mean, again, Peter Hyams does an amazing job not telling, like, not constantly beating us over the head with like, remember that time 2001 came out? Remember that time 2001 came out? Like, just like nudging you in the corner. He's literally just trying to make a good movie. Mm-hmm. And that comes through 85% of the time. Like, I feel like I'm watching a very decent science fiction movie. And like, to be honest with you, I realized, I was watching it today, I realized it's been a very long time since we've watched science fiction films without any sort of horror twinge to it. So to like go back to this, just like,
dude, how about when John Lithgow was spacewalking? That scene gave me like the Descent level. Like,
anytime people spacewalk,
dude,
even in Gravity, which I thought was really,
what
stupid,
they did?
Anytime people spacewalk, it gives me
when they showed the condensation on the inside of the helmets. That's always been my fear. You're like, what if I fucking mouth breathe so much?
Oh yeah,
I can't fucking see and I can't wipe it off.
Absolutely.
Oh my god. Like, the movie, that scene is brilliant. It's that emotional support scene, too, of everyone on the Russian and American crew, like, pulling him through. Mm-hmm. It's a great bonding moment. But, like, that one was panic-inducing.
Oh, yeah,
I would say there's no other dread in the rest of the movie. Again, this is a very, like, I punch in at 9, I go home at 5 to do, eat my fucking microwave dinner and have missionary.
It is very like, other than a couple of the like really like more heady things that don't work for me, it is very much this like, well, we got a job to do, let's get to it, otherwise we're gonna have to get it.
And like, again, to your point though, it's kind of refreshing.
It is,
because it has like the big question of 2001, but it's like, also, I mean, this movie specifically at one point, I can't remember how they said it, but essentially what this movie is saying, right, is that what you see doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is fucking data and facts, right? And that is, it is such a just absolute blatant disregard for the thesis of the first film. Not disregard, but it's like, we're going to go the exact opposite.
It just doesn't matter. Like, the thesis for the first film is so, like, again, wide open. Like, the thesis for the first film is literally, where are you in the universe and what does it matter to you?
Right.
Like,
well, here's a great example, right? This movie decides, and I think this is probably the most contentious debate I was having in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. This movie decides they're going to go back and rewrite Hal's story. So Hal 9000 is the robot that controls the ship in part 1, right? Mm-hmm. He does, and I love this story. I actually wrote a comic book story kind of based on this idea, right? I love the idea that a robot looks at us from an outsider's perspective and we're just data, right? We're a simple math equation.
Right.
Are the decisions we're making and our worth the same as whatever the value is, whatever. So that's what Hal is in the first one. He makes the decision that we are not up to the task of this massive discovery, whatever the fuck it is, right? And it's fucking brilliant. It's such a wonderful, I mean, it's by far the best segment of that movie, in my opinion. Yeah. It's perfect because in a weird way you are like, I see what Hal's thinking. This movie specifically decides to rewrite Hal. And the whole movie, they're setting you up for this, oh God, Hal's going to do it again. And he doesn't, right? So what they say is that Hal had information that was sent to him above Roy's pay grade, right?
Yeah.
So he's mad. That's why the mission went south, is because he was tasked with lying and he's unable to lie.
Right.
I gotta be honest, I think that sucks.
Why?
I think this story, they pay it off super well.
Yeah.
But I thought this beat sucked. I thought it was such a better science fiction beat that Hal is just doing the equation and he's like, you guys are fucking wild and you're emotional and you care about your one self. I'm fighting for this kind of advancement of the human race, right? I thought that was just a better science fiction theory than just the little fucking, oh, I could never tell a lie. I'm the little digital Abe Lincoln. Or George Washington, whichever president couldn't lie, which I'm guessing is none of them. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to say zero.
Yeah. The wooden tooth guy? I don't know. But this is what I'm saying. I think this beat is not great, in my opinion. I don't fucking like it. I think it negates, it takes away Hal's ability to, because this movie does two things that are contrary, right? Which is, one, it wants us to fully believe that Hal is, whether silicon or carbon-based, I believe the Dr. Chandra says, right? Mm-hmm. He deserves respect and be treated like one of us, whatever. Fine. The movie absolutely took away his agency. to have made a choice on his own and justify that choice by just saying like, oh, some evil politician lied to him. Let Hal fucking talk out why he did that and why it's the right choice, and let them see if he'll do it again. Knowing what he knows and getting a redo. Let Hal fucking defend himself if he's one of us.
I mean, they pay off the defending himself.
I'll give you that. I think it pays off well. I think this is one of those classic, like, this is not a thinker.
They give you the payoff to your argument. But here's my thing. Like, I did not mind it nearly as much. I didn't think it was necessarily good, but I didn't mind it nearly as much because actually I like the idea of a logic machine not understanding guile. And I think that is like
a little bit. Like, I'm a little with you on that. I don't think they played it out very interestingly.
No, like, I don't think, again, we're at like, you know, if it's a 9 to 5, we're at hour 7.5 and we got to finish this movie. So like at the same, like,
right. But in the first movie, right, the scene when they turn him off so that they can talk shit about him and don't realize he can read lips, that's a wonderful, they think they're in charge. And he's like, wait, something else is going on here. That is a machine not understanding guile and deceit and betrayal really done well. This is something they just tell us that, and then they leave it to that, oh, fuck, is he not going to let them escape? And then at the end, and again, it is a nice moment when Dr. Chandra just tells him the truth. Mm-hmm. And he goes, now I understand. Thank you. And he's like, I'll go down with this motherfucker. Did you notice, though, that Hal's still a sneaky bitch?
Yeah, but like to me...
No, Hal still tried to get a body. Hal tried to take Dr. Chandra out.
They're both still human moments. Like, to me, like, so 2001, for there to be self-preservation, pretty much. Like, because that's how I've always read it for me. Like, in 2001, Hal does what he does to Poole out of self-preservation. Like, he reads the lips, he understands what's going on. What he has is a very human emotion. And I
don't think it's self-preservation, though. I think it's the preservation of what's good for the many. I don't think Hal's is worried about himself, but he's the guy who can carry it out.
It's the preservation of the mission, which is Hal's objective, and therefore self-preservation. It's a very human emotion.
I don't think it's the same as the two guys who are like, we got to turn this motherfucker off so we can turn around. For just the two of them, though. That's the difference in the human whatever, right? But I don't know. I mean, the payoff it's sweet.
The payoff works.
To me, if I'm being honest, the entire ending of this movie doesn't really work for me where it lands, right?
I think the ending of the movie
it's the difference of the last movie just shows us a bunch of shit and says, here, write every fucking college paper for the next 40 years about what the fuck this is. And this movie puts a really kind of wildly optimistic and fine point on it.
The end of this movie, okay, like the end of 2001 is like this this platter of all these different types of foods, and you're just like, cool, yeah, I guess I'll just try all of them and see what I like.
And you never know what any of them are called.
But you don't know what any of them are called. Like, they're all from another country, or they're all from someplace else entirely. You're like, I don't know who made them, whatever. Like, 2010 is like, oh, cool, this is from the In-N-Out off Moore Park. Like, that's like...
that is not... No, 2001's like, hey, we want to have you over for a dinner party, and then they just set out like a fucking half-eaten bologna packet.
2010, you know exactly... you know exactly where the meal's coming from, but it's a meal that you would pick. Like,
you could have put it on a cracker or something. I mean, a sprig of leaf, it doesn't matter, whatever.
But see, that's the point right there. That's a great way to put it. Like, you realize, like, because of the pedigree with which this
you don't eat the fucking decoration. You're just here for the bologna.
Because, like...
The Roy Scheider melted hot dog.
Peter Hyams literally, like, he, like, sprung for the to-go box that the In-N-Out comes in, but he's, like, not putting it on crackers. Like, that's... I think it's the pedigree we expect, and instead we got what we got, which I agree. Like, I don't think the ending necessarily works for me. I think it's kind of stupid, to be honest with you. But
okay, we'll get to the very ending, because I agree. But again... This is the thing. I think that is just a personal preference thing. So if you ask me in the vein of what this movie wants to be, does Hal getting redeemed work? Yes, and I also think it's a fucking power move to rewrite probably one of the 2 or 3 most iconic things in the first movie.
I would say
that's
the
a
most
bit of a
iconic thing
fucking
in the first movie.
Sounds like the monolith might be the most like
Hal is the most important thing in that first movie, like by far.
To me, he is. Yeah, sure.
It is the proliferation of the human.
It's wonderful that they did that and had the balls to do that. I don't know again that it fucking paid off for me. No. But that kind of gets back to this whole theory, right? Of like, what is this movie trying, right? I like Roy Scheider using his fucking charms, right, to run around the ship and get these Russians and the Americans to work together, right? I thought that was really nice because I thought the Cold War thing, I'm like, this is kind of shoehorned in and not doing anything.
I love that beat at the very beginning.
It does work, though, when they have to split ships. And he says, you know what? Fuck them. Like, we're up here. We're the ones. In a way, it's an almost new Garden of Eden for them. And I was like, that visually is, like, it didn't matter to me at all in the story, but now they're using it to great effect, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't finish my thought, though. Fucking bitch-ass Hal tried to get a body. Right?
Oh, with
Dr. Chandra.
Dr. Chandra, yeah.
I mean, did he really? Hal can't do the fucking calculations on Dr. Chandra's just tiny legs moving slow as hell. And he's like, bye, Dr. Chandra. Have a good trip. And he's like, 5, 4. And the guy's not even to the fucking door yet. He's got to get fucking ziplined like he's on vacation with his family. Hal was trying to get him. Hal was going to be like, oops, another one.
Bob Balaban is one of those actors who like can't get killed in movies. Like I think we've only ever seen him get killed in one movie, if I remember correctly.
I think we were about to get the Khaled 9000. Another one. And he was going to start offing motherfuckers on the reg until the ghost of Dave shows up. He's like, was I a good boy?
I gotta say,
what's the safe word, Ghost Dave? Did Hal 9000 get the lotion, or is he back in the bucket?
I gotta say, this movie, speaking about Balaban and like the whole, like all of the supercomputerness, this movie really got me with the scene when he shows up. Like that bit with the Sal 9000.
You didn't think that was creepy as fuck?
Oh, he fucks that computer for sure, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no way he doesn't have, there's no way there's not an episode of like My Weird Obsession or whatever that one was where that guy fucked a car. That's like, this Bob Balaban has sex with Sal 9000 100%. But
I mean, he might have been the inspiration from floppy to hard disk, if you catch my drift. Boom.
Yeah, well done. But like,
Boom.
But this movie like really got me with this scene where he's discussing like, hey, I have to take you apart. How do you feel about that? Like that whole process of explaining to this supercomputer, like, hey, to understand what went wrong up there, I have to ruin you essentially.
Yeah.
Which is also a weird sexual
I know I
thing.
built you to like have feelings and emotions, but also like your junk on my desk that I crammed myself into. Bye.
Yeah.
Right?
Bye.
I'm going to go back up for the one I actually
But
like.
I was just like,
so
that's
much emotional
weird,
abuse.
and I wonder if when they go up there, like that was my thing. Is I'm like, when he goes up there, he's gonna try and fuck that HAL 9000 too. Jeez, this
You think he's just running around just having a... He's like, that's his Russian arrow-breaking girl.
He's just dropping loads in every IBM he can find, just crushing it.
I mean, he was pretty stoked to be cramming those fucking crystal voice things back in.
Oh,
I don't know.
know.
Where's the safe word tube? But no,
so off the rails.
I know. Well, I was like, again, that's one of those weirdly like not optimistic things the movie does too. When he comes back in from Hal trying to murder him,
yeah.
And he just he gets fucking like claw gamed back onto the ship because that just is something that can happen when you're on full thrust in space. Fine, whatever. Hard science, my ass. Hard doctor. Never mind. That's neither here nor there. Also, but he comes back and he's like, "I had your explosive because I knew you tried to kill Hal." And then Roy Scheider just like smiles because he's so happy that everything is working out exactly as he wanted. What in the fuck is happening here? But I did think it was cool as they're escaping, right? The giant monolith disappears. Now, this is the scene I thought was cool as fuck. There's a giant black circle on Jupiter, right? It looks like an eye is forming. When they go in, the monoliths are replicating like virus, right?
Right.
Fucking cool. The planet's eating itself. It's losing color.
Yeah, that part is
This
cool.
is all super cool. Literally no explanation or payoff for what that means. I'm assuming that's what becomes the star.
Yes.
The second star in the sky, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Ghost Dave tells Hal to broadcast one last message as long as you can, right? The most important message in all mankind. All these worlds are yours except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Use them in peace. All right, fair enough. Are we to believe in any fucking shape, form, or fashion that this is not going to lead to an absolute arms race and the destruction of all of us? Do we really think that Roy's just like fucking post 85th Bourbon letter that someday the children of the new star and the old will meet and it'll be all best friends?
Yeah.
Not a fucking chance. This giant thing just fucking sent a ghost to Earth multiple times to fucking hairbrush and do whatever. Put another fucking sun in our universe, which by the way is going to affect the climate on our Earth and probably kill a bunch of people. The creatures that can survive on Europa that close to a sun are going to be hideous beasts that our weapons will be barely able to affect. This is the end. This movie's sending us a fucking happy song and dance and then just cutting us from our buttholes all the way to the back of our necks and taking us as a skin suit, is my theory.
Wow. That is graphic. And
I will tell you the truth. I started that analogy and had no idea where it was going. It was so much more than I planned.
You really
I went for it. But I do
really
think it's apt.
I do think butthole to neck suit. That's a new thing.
It's an Egger suit.
Egger suit. Skins.
Water.
Wow.
No. I think this is bad. I think this is fucking... If there's one thing we know that humans love, it's ultimatums.
Well, I think what's interesting too, like besides like the obvious arms race thing, like there's like as soon as Haywood gets back and he's just like, well, we were told to stay away. Like, why? Like, just I don't know. Just don't go there.
No one's going to see that like fucking creepy ass planet that somehow already has jungles and oceans. And they're going to see one thing crawl out of there and be like, whatever it takes.
Well, this
we're
is
blowing
the part
up that entire Earth.
This is
planet,
the part of the movie, like, this is the part of the movie that I was just like, this is the part, I did not like this ending because it, again, just like, it flies in the face of 2001 in the wrong way, you know? Like, it does this, like,
let's preface, I have not read the book. I know that this is a series of books, so this could all be explained very well in the books. We are here to talk about a movie.
For me, the end again, like the ending for this movie tries to do this sort of like, wow, what if, you know? Like, what a weird thing. Like, let's theorize. Like, this is one of it's one of those things where like there's like 40 years of term papers about 2001. This one is like there's maybe like 5. Mm-hmm. And the ending for this movie is just not... It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like this weird, it's the Monolith magic. I think that's always the thing that I like about this is the Monolith in 2001 is just this beacon of all of our own philosophical drivel. Yeah. That's it. Like,
well, the first time the primates see it, right? It's almost as if it inspires us to do our worst or darkest desire because it's an excuse.
Yeah, well, it's like the knowledge of
self. Did that Monolith tell that fucking ape man to crush that other dude's head, or is that just something he's like, I've been thinking about this for a while. This is a pretty good time.
It's the knowledge of self. Like, it's the curse of knowledge.
You're opened up to beyond your own boundaries. Right. Yes.
So to me, assigning essentially what the Monolith actually is, which it seems to be just this all... Again,
well, let's go through this kind of beat by beat, right? So what Roy Scheider says in his fucking, again, just, I hate silence. Let's talk over it. The fear is over. We've seen the process of life happen. We've been given a new lease and a warning from the landlord. Okay, does any of those lines sound like something that would then be followed in a movie by, and peace and quiet reign forever? No! Nope. Yeah. The fear is over. Nonsense. We've seen life happen. That is fear right there. And then we got a warning from the fucking... But so let's break this down.
You want to know the last time that happened? Avatar. There's going to be like 10 sequels to that movie.
Yes. But why was the Monolith on Earth, right, in the first place? Why was it on Mars? Why was there a giant one outside?
Why was it anywhere?
We never know. They said, right, fine. I always took that watching, again, I don't want to do our whole 2001 pod now. I always took that as that every planet has something like that, right? Some kind of force that is a blank slate that we then graffiti, and that's what our world becomes. Fine.
Right.
This takes that away. So then it throws into question, why do any of these things exist? Why do they need... So if these things are here and can do all of this wonderful shit, why do they need to restart a new planet in our own fucking neighborhood, probably full of creatures to go down and eat us when we fuck up again, which we will? Here's the really weird thing, and this is such a 2010 distinction from the first one. They even give the monolith human form because it's too abstract of a theory. They put Dave in there, and there's a great scene when he goes and finds his, I believe it's his wife, right? His, like, widowed wife. And he's like, he travels space and time, right? So as we see this, like, lightning bolt, pew, right? As Max is getting murdered, and, you know, they're trying to find it on Europa. Something's alive down there. It flies all the way to Earth just to be in one TV. And I believe what it says is, I was Dave Bowman. Whatever he was really is a part of me now, right? Mm-hmm. Fine. Just to go see his fucking ex-wife. The ex-wife of this one tiny insignificant thing that's inside of him. And it's kind of a sweet moment, right? And then there's the, you know, he warns them to get out of there. They've got 2 days to get out. Fine. He goes and brushes his elderly mom's hair and, you know, gives her like a moment of relief. That seems touching, right?
Yeah.
There's also a big question as to if it's that specific. Did Bowman get in and infect and ruin this perfect thing with humanity?
Well, that's kind of the question, right? Like, does humanity infect a monolith?
Is this thing now working as our Christian God? Because that's what Dave Bowman brought with his mind. There's some weird fucking things they do with this, right?
Right.
What did you make of this, making Dave Bowman the face of the monolith?
I didn't like it, to be honest with you. Like, again, it's just, it's...
I kind of worked on, like, a scary science fiction level.
Yeah, but see, like, they never took it far enough.
Okay, I agree with you on that. I don't know that the wires connect.
Yeah, see, like, for me, the scary science fiction level of that is that Bowman becomes part of the monolith. Like, because, again, the monolith to me is, like,
and they show the Star Child, right? So he's something.
Yeah. So the monolith to me has always been, like, all the collective knowledge of the universe. So if Bowman is so strong that he's able to, like, literally become the monolith itself, the Star Child himself, all these things. If Bowman is so strong to emerge as a being that is of the monolith, it should be that Bowman is God, essentially. Like that should be what it is.
He's weirdly the face of God. So he's almost like a Christ figure, right? He's our
what
front
it
man
is.
selling it.
He's this, like he's selling this. But to me, they make Bowman so non-human in a lot of ways. Like, just because he goes and visits his wife.
0% human, right? It's
right. Visiting his
those
wife
scenes
is like...
do work because it's this godlike figure taking time out of this seemingly huge endeavor to stop and just go comb an old lady's hair. That is an insane thought experiment that's really fun to watch.
It is, but it also... It's counterbalanced by the fact, like, if Bowman is strong enough to become the monolith itself, wouldn't he go and comb this woman's hair? Like,
well, is that still this, like, was that giant monolith a destroyer of sorts, and Bowman bends it? If
there's this strange earthly attachment still, and you have literally the power of God, wouldn't that make God human, and therefore God is completely fallible? So therefore God literally snuffing out a fucking planet and turning it into a star in the universe, in my opinion, is, like you were saying, absolutely fucking terrifying. Like,
yeah, because those like millions of monoliths could have just come to Earth and like handled some shit.
Yeah.
Just been like, hey, we're here to eat every weapon.
If we
There's
fucked
no more
up
guns
so
or bullets.
bad, why don't we just like that is the 2010, the year we made contact, really is like
the monoliths just come down and do that Tropic Thunder line. You're a lead farmer, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, there's no more bullets or anything. You're all farmers now. That's it.
Yeah. I mean,
you
to
just
me,
farm
that's like
and you fuck and smile. That's our whole thing now. When they make a new planet, that's a replacement fucking planet.
Right. Well, it's not supposed to be.
The fuck it's not. I think it's an exact... I think maybe Bowman was like, whatever piece of Bowman's in there, he's like, maybe I should go check out. Is it really cool to brush hair? Is it really cool to be emotionally attached to a lady? Like, will her sadness move me? It didn't.
No, it did not.
At all.
He was like, cool, I'm done with this. Like, again, it's just such a weird...
And I think he sent the fucking Russian and Americans back to be like, hey, go back there and tell them what you fucking saw here. Let chaos reign. The amount of fucking orgies and drugs and murders that happen before this ship returns to Earth is staggering. Staggering. By the time they get back to Earth, God will truly be dead because of the horrors the average normal will have faced on this Earth.
I mean, when you think about it, by the time they're back, I mean, it's basically now. So, yeah, they like the... I
mean, this is what, like a 10-year, 20-year round trip?
So,
millions of light years? Whatever.
So, basically, Haywood and all his friends show up now, and they're like, wow, we should have just stayed up there. This sucks.
He gets home, and the first thing he sees is his fucking bedraggled fucking rag-wearing son who's now 58. And he's like, Dad, do you know the amount of fucking orgies that I've had to be in just to eat fucking Velveeta cheese? It's the only food we have left. And he's like, what about them Yankee hot dogs? And his son just runs up and shanks him in the throat. You did this, Dad! There was never a Yankees hot dog!
He's been full blown pink socked, like he's hating life and just stabs his dad. It's
like looking into a broken old leathery mirror, and Roy Scheider's like, I can't.
That's the Academy Award ending movie. I want to see.
Dad, do you know what those Dolphins did to me to survive in our own living room where I was a boy and played toys with you? Yeah, I think this. It's weird because the movie wants to be like it's the happiest. Fucking flower-nailed middle finger to Kubrick in 2001, the ending of this movie. But I think secretly they made a scarier ending. I think in a weird way, 2001 is more optimistic because, like, hey, are we all going to get those fucking space bubbles? That seems cool.
It's 2001 is this philosophical other side of the wormhole thing. Yeah. And 2010 is like, we're still on the wrong side of the wormhole, and it sucks.
In 2001, you're the hole. Or in 2010, you're the
2010,
hole. That's what this movie's telling you. Go ahead and smile, bitch. It's almost over.
Yep, that should have been the colon title. 2010, smile, bitch. Yeah. It's almost over.
The year we made contact with everything from hell.
And then we have Event Horizon, so here we go.
Yeah, and then Event Horizon looks like a fucking day at the park. That's what this movie's afterwards. I don't know. I think this movie, it took courage to make this version.
Absolutely.
And again, this is probably an easier sell to studios, but to follow up that movie was going to be a near impossible task, and they made a fantastic movie to follow that up.
Agreed.
Again, it's got very little of the flair, but it's a really just well done science fiction. The nuts and bolts are put together well.
Agreed. I want to say this one thing about our director, Peter Hyams. He is a prolific Alchemist director for you and I, by the way. Mm-hmm. His other bona fides after 2010, he did Running Scared, which I love, by the way, with Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. And then Time Cop.
God, I've been wanting to get to Time. I think we've talked about doing a Join the Force this next year.
We did. Time Cop, The Relic, which I know you love.
Oh, dude, yeah. That was one of my first adult books I love.
And End of Days.
Oh, my God. This guy. Look at this. Look at us. That's what I'd say if we hung out. Yeah, I'd be like, so, buttholes ripped at the end of 2010. He'd be like, finally, someone got it. And I'd be like, thank you.
But yeah,
I thought to neck skin suit. Think of that. Take that in your pipe.
2010. Nuts and bolts sci-fi with a lot of skin suits at the end. That's it.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because there are parts of this movie that remind you of the opening of Alien, where it's just this very blue collar space crew of characters that you really latch onto and enjoy, man. Yep. And the big swings with the Monolith and Hal, I think they're all right. They're not my taste, but I bet for most people they would work pretty well. But yeah, so thank you, Howard, for picking this awesome fucking flick. What a great way to start stuffing stockings. Our other stocking stuffers this month, if you guys are interested, Dark Star, Gremlins, and on Train Spotting. So we got a good list coming up here, guys, to finish the year strong. What a wonderful year it's been. So, guys, make sure you join us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Guys, just $1 a month to show some love and support is appreciated. Thank you guys in advance. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials, like all you hip young AI bots that are actually good guys, and it's humans that done us wrong. I got nothing. That's it for the Film Alchemist. I'm Josh. I'm the man wearing the Josh Griffey skin suit.
I am Alex, wearing a Dandino skin suit for sure.
And I can say this 100% for fact. All my dreams tonight will be deciding how tan Roy Scheider's dong was.
Yep.
That is all I'll be able to see when I sleep.
I am going with boiled hot dog in the corner of the car.
I mean, I bet just shriveled. So tan. That thing is... I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Bye!